Hi, welcome to our presentation of our final project. We are the Naturally Processed Teens, Gabriella Brick, Rio Upal, Abraham Druck, and Aaron Myers. And today we will be presenting the question answering system to end all question answering systems. So to start off, let's talk about how we generated our questions. So we used different templates and we generated who, whose, where, what, why, when, yes, no, fill in the blank questions. We have a lot of different questions. And we use packages such as Pattern and NLTK to conjugate verbs, to tag a phrase's role, to find named entities, and to tag parts of speech. So essentially, our question generation heavily relied on dependency parsing. We made sure that our grammar was correct. So for instance, if we got a simple sentence like Aaron rides his bike, the question would be who rides his bike? And if the sentence was the girls rode bikes in Paris, our question would be where did the girls ride bikes? So if our question generating system found a place, we would automatically think, oh, maybe we can create a where question out of this sentence. And if it found a person or a named entity, such as a different organization that could be used with a who question, our question generating system looked to the who questions to generate those. So a more complex example of how our question generating works, we performed our question generating system on the Maurya Empire Wikipedia page. So we got questions like who brought about significant changes in the style of governance, and which included providing protection to fauna and even relinquished the royal hunt. Is the Mauryan Empire analogous to the Roman Empire several centuries later? Who founded the Mauryan Empire by overthrowing the Nanda dynasty? Who brought 16 states under the Mauryan Empire and thus conquered almost all the Indian peninsula? What apparently remained in the northwest of the Indian subcontinent under Ashoka's rule? So English is imperfect, and I'm going to hand over this presentation to Ria now.
Our templates in the packages that we used often did not tag certain phrases or words properly, and thus we created sentences that were not well formed grammatically. To solve this, we used a neural network. This neural network basically generated tags to tell us whether a question was well formed or not. It generated tags in the range 0 to 1, and splitting these on 0.5 told us whether a question was well formed or not. However, we also made use of the real valued predicted numbers from the neural network to rank the questions, which we'll talk about later on. And therefore, using this neural network, we're able to filter out ill-formed questions, which are basically questions that are not grammatically correct. Once we generated all our questions and filtered out the bad ones, we had to solve the problem of only outputting the top n questions. To do this, we used ranking to output the top n questions. So our best questions were based on two categories, which was grammatical correctness and relevance to the article. We weighted these two categories with 0.9 weight given to grammatical correctness and 0.1 weight given to the relevance to the article. As we stated before, the correctness of the grammar was ranked based on the predictions from the neural network, and then to rank the question's relevance to the article, we used an idea based on our answering system, which was cosine similarity. Fill in the blank questions were ranked separately as we generated too many of them compared to the other questions.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about how our answer generation system worked, because our answering system was going to be pitted against complex question generation systems like we just talked about. So what we decided to do is we decided to use the strategy of cosine similarity, and what that did is it gave us the sentence that had the highest probability of having the answer her inside to the question that was asked, and we chose this because it was a very efficient way of getting the answer, so it was very fast and you didn't have to wait very long, and also it has a very high accuracy rate. So what we did was we parsed the question and we put it into vector form. So we counted each word and put that into a vector. And then we parsed all the sentences in the corpus into vector form. And then we had to deal with the problem that there might be words in the question that weren't in the sentences or vice versa. So we padded each of the vectors. And then we took the dot product and divided by the product of the magnitude of the two vectors. One thing that we were having troubles with is detecting where the sentences are, which seems like a simple task at first. Because at first we were trying to look for just periods, but in some cases there would be an extraneous period due to a prefix or a shortening or something. So instead we used TextBlob to properly grab the sentences. So if you look down at the bottom of the screen, there's an example given. I was talking to Dr. Green and was explaining my symptoms. So here, if we just looked for periods, it would split it into two sentences, when clearly this is just one due to the period from doctor. But TextBlob effectively split this into one sentence for us.
So this is all fine and great that we can find the correct sentence where we want to extract our answer from, but we want to further hone in on what our actual answer is, what the actual actionable text is. So in order to do that, we were able to use noun chunk and entity detection within spaCy to find entities of the appropriate type, which allowed us to cut out all of the unnecessary words. This could cause problems if the entity is mistagged, for example, if it thinks a person is a geopolitical entity. But the right answer will still be outputted, as in like it would get to the right sentence, but it just won't be shortened properly. If all else fails, it will just output the whole sentence, because technically it's still correct. Sometimes some questions only want a yes or a no, in which case we only want to output yes or no. So in order to do that, we can parse the sentence for whether it is a negative or positive sentence and compare that to the positivity or negativity of the question. And then if they match, we can say yes to the question. Otherwise, we can say no. So here are some example answers from a Wikipedia article about Clint Dempsey, the soccer player. Is Dempsey an American professional soccer player? Our question answering system says yes. Who is the club's highest Premier League goal scorer of all time? It turns out to be Dempsey. And Dempsey first represented what at the 2003 FIFA Youth World Championship? And that is the United States. That's all, folks.